Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday edition, because we skipped Tuesday. All right, now let me explain. This is Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And I'm your host, Mark Baze, the preacher from Southeast Oklahoma. I do apologize. I gave you no warning. I told you on Monday that we would be doing a show on Tuesday, and then Tuesday came and there was no show. There's a very good reason for it. It's because I had last-minute things come up to go do with my brother-in-laws. And so I had to get on the road, go, no time to, or you know what, I just did not get around to announcing it. So I do apologize. I know you were sitting around waiting. Where is Shields and Arrows? I've got to have my daily dose of Shields and Arrows, and you're having withdrawals. Well, the good news is here I am. We're back to doing the regular show. As far as I know, there should be nothing come up, but, you know, just I had a last-minute thing come up with the brother-in-laws, and so we went and it was a lot of fun, and I cannot verify whether this is true or false, but we may have gone up into the mountains and shot guns for a while. So that's all I can say, all right? I cannot confirm or deny that's what happened. So please forgive me. I am so sorry. But here we are. We're back, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to continue to talk about the riots going on in LA because I do think it matters, and I think it's very interesting discussion. What would you do if you're the President of the United States? If it was your responsibility, do you send in the Guard? Do you send in the Marines like Trump has done? Or do you let the cities burn to the ground? It's really an interesting discussion, and I can't quite decide how I feel about it one way or the other. But we're going to talk about some more because it's kind of interesting. We're also going to talk about how I think optically it is hurting the Democrats. It's hurting the left. It's hurting the pro-open border, illegal immigrant supporters. And that's evident in a number of ways. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the SBC. They've had their big, well, today's the last day, the 11th, their big conference, and it's actually happening like an hour and a half that way. Yes, I am very close to Dallas, Texas. I'm closer to Dallas than I am to, I don't know, like 90% of Oklahoma. But with that being said, it's happening right down the way in Dallas, Texas. And I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail, but we'll briefly talk about it. They reelected Clint Presley, the SBC president, and what all that may or may not really mean. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that is very niche to me, and very few people probably know about it, but there is a lot of controversy and really a sad story going on concerning a small American company focusing on firearms and things of that nature, and how it's going to impact a niche area of the community that, or the industry, you could use that terminology for those different kinds of people interested in personal protection and all those things. But the broader picture of these movements, these ideologies, these principles, and I'm using that in the broadest sense, not just to a small niche firearms company, but the ministry at large, right? You could apply to a number of things. It's got to be bigger than one person. It's got to be bigger than just one company. We're going to talk about all that. Today's going to be an interesting variety show. Now, tonight, we are going to be going live with our Abraham study. And let's see here. We are going to be studying Abraham, finding the biblical truth. So many of you have tuned in to watch that, and that'll be going live tonight at 6:30. And it'll be session number, I think number 7. I'll have to check which number it is. But we're going to be looking at Abram. He's going to defeat Amraphel and Chedorlaomer and the other 2 kings. And then he's going to be receiving an interesting visit by one Melchizedek. So I hope that you follow along with us for that. And we will look at studying Abraham, getting down to the biblical truth instead of just repeating what all the preachers say over and over again about matters concerning Abraham and all the confusion that's made, reading yourself into the text surrounding the Abrahamic narrative and all those good things. Now, I believe I'm ready to get into the main part of the show. Are you ready? So let's see here. First and foremost, we've got to talk about LA. It is burning to the ground, or at least parts of LA are burning to the ground. So the LA riots are continuing to go on, but we talked about on Monday how it's going to spread. It's never the case, really, that these riots just happen in one place and one place only, and that's exactly what we're seeing coming from the Daily Wire. Anti-ICE riots are spreading. They have spread to San Francisco, but they've also gotten outside of San Francisco. At San Francisco, more than 150 people were arrested after a riot began outside an ICE office, and those are federal buildings, okay? So keep that in mind when we're talking about Trump. Does he have the right, and should he send in the National Guard and these things? And it is affecting federal property. Also in New York, at least a dozen protesters were arrested outside the Trump Tower. They were resisting police, and they were trying to shut down traffic, because that's what they like to do, because, you know, they don't care if you're trying to get to work, or your wife's in labor, or, I don't know, maybe you just got to go to the restroom. Let's see here. Anti-ICE organizers say that there are planning demonstrations in Chicago, Austin, Dallas, Atlanta, and a number of other places. So just expect we are getting into the summer, and because the Republicans in office, the Democrats are not happy, and so they want to riot. That is kind of what they like to do. And so the last time a Republican was in office in the summertime was 2020, and there were riots, and now a Republican's in office here in 2025, and so they're rioting again. And it's probably going to go on for a little while. There'll probably be a few more riots, especially as long as people are, able to get the bread and the medicine that they desperately need to feed their families and take care of their loved ones. Oh, just kidding. They're not actually stealing bread. They're stealing iPhones and shoes and TVs and things like that. As a matter of fact, in Los Angeles, which is still, according to the Daily Wire here, the epicenter of the unrest, a large Apple store was robbed by hundreds of rioters because, they need those iPhones in order to order food for their children. And, of course, jewelry stores as well. And it's not looking good. A number of Democrats are acknowledging that it's not looking good. They're actually admitting it. As a matter of fact, very interesting article from MSNBC here. And this is how you know, like when you have MSNBC acknowledging that, hey, this doesn't look good, that right now at the very least, Trump is actually winning on this. As long as the Democrats are backpedaling from the violence, then you can get a really good idea. So here's the MSNBC article. You won't beat ICE with violence. Mayhem undermines the vast majority of peaceful protesters. Now, how many of them are actually peaceful? So they're saying, the majority of them are peaceful. Okay, sure. Where's the video? Where's the video of the peaceful protesters? All we've seen so far is guys riding around in dirt bikes with, Mexican flags. And so this mayhem and the violence, it won't do anything to stop Trump's cruel and reckless immigration crackdown. So the MSNBC website is admitting that, right now this is all just going mostly positive for Trump. As far as publicly, I think the vast majority of American people are in support. They like the idea of, hey, there's people in our country who shouldn't be here, and they're kind of burning down the cities. So from MSNBC, President Donald Trump is spoiling for a violent fight on American soil in response to protests in Los Angeles against his mass deportation regime, a small number of which have turned violent. Just a small number, ignore the burning cars and everything else. Trump deployed thousands of National Guard members and roughly 700 Marines. He's been pining to invoke the Insurrection Act for years. Now that his administration is filled with sycophants, he just might do it. So the MSNBC is, very much against Trump, trying to paint Trump in the worst of light, and yet it's not Trump who's having the cities burned down. Also, John Fetterman, he was noted for saying that, his party loses the moral high ground, I'm paraphrasing him, when they engage in these violent riots and acts of terror. So, with that, there you go. You've got some clear examples there of MSNBC admitting, right now, this is not looking good for the Democrats. It's not looking good for the illegals. And so, Where does that leave us? Like, how should we assess the situation? So there is a part of me, and I talked to you about this on Monday. There is a part of me that says, let's just let California burn itself to the ground, and whichever other state wants to allow it. I mean, if Chicago wants to tolerate it, San Francisco, New York, whatever, just let the rioters do what they want to do. And then if the state wants to fix their problems, let them fix their problems. There is that matter that you would kind of just want to say, you know what, California, you brought it upon yourselves. By all means, knock yourself out. Probably literally, when you get hit in the head with a frozen bottle of water or a brick thrown by one of the peaceful protesters at these fiery but mostly peaceful protests. However, there are some problems to just quickly and easily washing your hands of the whole thing. First of all, they are targeting federal buildings. Now, you may say, well, there shouldn't be any federal property in any state. Okay, I get it, but the problem is there's a lot of federal property in a lot of states. Oklahoma has federal property. So what is the president supposed to do in that case? I mean, does the federal government just tolerate the attack on federal property? I don't know, does the federal government not have a right to defend its property, just how you have a right to defend your property, unless maybe you live in an extremely liberal city that doesn't acknowledge that right? Regardless. So you have that problem. Also, I mean, at what point does this thing just kind of turn into an actual invasion from another country? All right, so maybe they're not organized military. They're not being sent in on orders from the Mexican president or, a Mexican commander general. But they are flying the Mexican flag. I don't know really what else to call that other than a foreign attack, a foreign invasion. They are not American citizens. They are in support of another nation. They're doing damage to American soil while flying another nation's flag above their heads. I don't know what you do with that. I mean, if Trump is not justified in using National Guard Marines to stop foreign actors from causing damage to American cities, I mean, I don't know. What do you do? I kind of hit my remote there that I've got hidden behind my coffee table, or my coffee mug. Coffee table. Goodness gracious. So, I mean, what do you think? What would you do? Now, if we lived in a world, and let's kind of give a hypothetical world here, that says each state take care of yourself as you please, which I think we could all agree that was probably much more the original idea of the United States. The people of California, the government of California, would handle it as they saw fit. So, hey, if you want to allow all these illegals to be in your country, or in your state, we should say, then by all means, have at it. If you want to let them riot and burn down your cities, by all means, have at it. But here's the problem. Texas or Oklahoma or any other red state, if they want to keep out illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, and if they want to deport them to somewhere else, you've got to let them have the freedom to do that. You've got to allow them to send them over to California or New York, or send them out of the country. If you're going to let California do what it wants to do, you've got to let Texas do what Texas wants to do. But here's the problem. The Biden administration has proven that they're not going to allow it. All of the barriers they put up. The Texas National Guard was mobilized by Governor Greg Abbott to secure the border. And the Biden administration did everything in their power to prevent them from being able to do that. Also, when Texas deported illegal immigrants to New York or to Martha's Vineyard or some other cities, they faced massive backlash. The federal government got very angry with them for doing that. And there were also some challenges made. So what is it? Are we going to let the states handle the problems? If so, let California handle it their way, and then meanwhile, we'll just send all the illegals over to them. Or is the federal government going to enforce federal law? This is why we're in a weird no man's land situation. So the Trump administration is just following the example that the Biden administration laid out. The Biden administration said, no, we're not going to let the states handle the problems themselves. Trump's just being consistent. Okay, well, that's how the previous administration handled the matter. So now we're going to send in the National Guard. And it is kind of a tough situation if you're Trump. Do you let the riots continue and then they just start popping up in other cities and then they're going to blame you? And somebody mentioned it on Monday, Trump's going to be blamed no matter what he does. Or do you go ahead and be someone who is proactive about trying to establish law and order? It really is, it's an interesting situation. And I think that right now, the way that our government operates, the way the government works, you really do have to say Trump has every right to do so. I don't think that he is unjustified at all. And as of right now, it seems like Trump has more support from the American people than what the Democrats have. I don't think Gavin Newsom's doing himself any favors. Now, he's a really slick politician, and he may find himself at the top of the Democrat ticket in 2028. But as of right now, people are tired of it. They don't want to see cities burnt down. It's reminding them of the BLM riots of 2020, which people did not like. And once again, it just goes to show you, when do the riots happen? It happens when the Democrats don't get their way. And you have the one day, January 6, 2021, in which some people kind of rioted, but also the Capitol Police just kind of let them do what they wanted and open the doors for them. And so the liberals have their one example that they get to show, that they get to point to over and over and over again. But we're not allowed to bring up the 2020 riots. We're not allowed to bring up the riots previous days, previous times, Ferguson, Missouri, things like that. You're not allowed to bring up the riots that are going on right now because they're just trying to stand up for their rights, or they're trying to make their voices heard by setting cars on fire. It's all very silly. It's all very frustrating. And we'll see how it all plays out. All right. Now, moving on here, let's talk about the SBC 2025 convention. So this is from the Christian Post here, their review of the whole thing. Clint Presley celebrates Southern Baptist identity. Thank God we still have a gospel. And Clint Presley, of course, is the SBC president. So the Southern Baptist Convention has their annual meeting. It varies from year to year where it is, I'm pretty sure. But this year it's in Dallas, Texas. And this is where the messengers from all the different churches will go. Now, my church didn't send any messengers. I don't have a dog in the fight, really. I know that's strange to say, because even though my church is technically affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention, I mean, I don't have, I guess there's some better options than others, but this year there really was no, like as far as the president and even things that were being voted on, we're going to have to see what all was even taken to a vote. I don't know what all was on the agenda this year. I haven't even read it. That shows you how much that I don't care, really, because I don't think the SBC is really in a place that can be can really be much salvaged. I just don't see enough unity in there. But let's look and see what he had to say in this article, Clint Presley, after being reelected. So at the annual 2025 meeting of the Southern Baptist Convention, SBC, President Clint Presley delivered an impassioned call for unity, biblical conviction, and celebration of the denomination's defining principles that help it wade through the morass of the moral anarchy of our day. One of the things that I try to always do is just be honest with you. So when I see a word and I don't quite know its pronunciation, probably because my vocabulary is greatly hindered, but also, I don't know. I feel like sometimes they just use words that not everybody uses or how it's pronounced. So anyways, Moving on. Speaking to thousands of messengers gathered in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday, Presley recounted his personal testimony, emphasized the ongoing relevance of the Baptist faith and message, and rallied churches around the cooperative program, urging, "Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful." The address, anchored in Hebrews 10, 23 through 24, that's typical Southern Baptist right there. Let's apply the book of Hebrews to us. Was themed around hold fast, a nod to both the doctrinal moorings and the cooperative mission strategy he said defined Southern Baptists for 100 years. I think this was the 100th anniversary of the cooperative program, as it is today. I didn't grow up as a Southern Baptist. Presley tells his whole background story here. Let's move on a little bit further. The pastor emphasized the clear theological identity found in the SBC's guiding document, talking about the Baptist faith and message, adding, "Our confession is faithful to the Bible. That confession is biblical. That confession is clear. It is not ambiguous. It is Christ-honoring." We could read the Baptist faith and message, and I think I could point to a number of times in which it doesn't have the most clear position on a number of things, like eschatology and things like that. It's a vague document in a number of ways. That's one reason why it's the SBC is a catch-all for a lot of different kind of doctrines. As long as you basically say you're saved by faith and that baptism is the first step of obedience, if you word things like that, and also you hold like the security of the believer, right? You can't lose your salvation. You're basically going to get to be an SBC church. I mean, the Baptist faith and message is not that narrow. It really isn't. So to say that it's not ambiguous, some areas it's pretty ambiguous, I would say. Presley lauded the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, saying its unflinching clarity is a strength amid growing cultural ambiguity, particularly around human sexuality and gender identity. So he did speak to that a little bit. He goes on and said, for the Southern Baptist, the waters of sexuality are not muddy, he said. We see the goodness of God in the masculinity of a man. We see that is something good, not toxic, but good. We also see the goodness of God in the femininity of a woman. I mean, okay, you can word it that way. It's how God created the world, and it is a good thing. So the goodness of God. I would say, in the image, like if we go back to Genesis, the image of God, but Baptists would probably say that man has lost that only Adam was made in the image of God, and now his original sin has completely changed his very essence. So interesting statements there. I don't know. Some would probably try to use it to feminize God in some ways. Without naming contemporary debates explicitly, that's weak, I would say. Like, you go ahead and you have the annual meeting once a year, right? That's why it's the annual meeting. There's debates that are very much a hot topic within the SBC, whether it's female pastors or issues of even just basically basic roles between male and female, right? Just in the home even. I know, like, there's a lot of things that you could discuss there. And yet Presley never felt the need to speak to anything specifically, call out anything in actual detail. Not very impressive to me. Presley affirmed the SBC's traditional stance on gender and marriage, calling it joyful clarity rooted in Scripture and creation. So hey, at least the SBC is defending traditional marriage for right now. We point people to the goodness of God and sexuality, he said. That is something we hold dear, and we don't do so hiding in a corner. It helps us wade through the morass, the mores. Is that it? Or do you not pronounce the S's? Is it mores? Of the moral anarchy of our day. I could Google it, but I guarantee if I go to the live chat, somebody has already corrected me on how you say that word. No, I'm disappointed. None of you have corrected me yet. Normally, some of you are so quick to tell me how to pronounce a certain theology. That's kind of... So he says, it says that he cautioned against turning orthodoxy into mere paper theology, emphasizing the SBC's commitment to furthering the gospel. I don't know what that means. So orthodoxy, let's equate that to doctrine, all right? Their doctrinal views. Don't turn orthodoxy into mere paper theology. I guess you could take that as that's what our theology is on paper, but we don't carry it out in real life. Is it talking the talk but not walking the walk? Is that what he's trying to say? He says our confession is not designed to be dead orthodoxy. He said our confession must lead to doing something. Our confession must lead to orthopraxy. So, yeah, I guess, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. I would say that you would do well to have an emphasis on a clear picture of your orthodoxy, of your doctrine. I feel like a lot of people, I will say this. I knew of a church. I'll put it this way. And then you can, it's kind of like, I have a friend who, but just follow along with me for a moment. I knew of a church who hired a pastor who was kind of a recent convert. And he had been saved, believed the gospel within probably 4 years of becoming an actual pastor. And he was very big on doing things. He had a lot of plans. He had a lot of ideas. But he would have done well to have some paper theology. Like a clear, concise understanding of what he believes. Because motivation, determination, ideas, all those things, if they are not grounded in the foundations of what your belief is, what you're actually saying about God, about the world, about the gospel, about Christianity, about church, fill in the blank, your actions, your efforts, your labor, it's not going to be anchored, and it's going to drift. It may not accomplish what you want it to, because you never grounded it in any concrete thing. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of SBC churches to a T. There's a lot of SBC churches that are gung-ho about fill in the blank, children's ministry, foreign missions, community outreach, and yet if you had church members write their theology down on paper, you wouldn't even take up a whole front page on what they know or their clear doctrinal positions on some of the most basic matters. I feel like a lot of churches, a lot of pastors like to try to run before they ever walk. Like they haven't even learned to walk yet and they're trying to run. So, interesting statement there, kind of telling. Moving on. This is what he has to say. He recalled attending evangelism training at a local church event in Dallas before the meeting. Remember, this is actually what we do. Our doctrine leads somewhere, he said, citing church planting, evangelism, and global missions as outflows of confessional belief. Okay, so it's a call to action. And nothing about this SBC annual meeting was going to be anything very deep. It's a rah, go get them. He's going to check certain boxes, say certain things in order to, meet the quota. There's got to be so many things about furthering the gospel, a call to action, not just in word, but in doing. So there's a lot of things he says. Now, here's some interesting things he said. In contrast to narratives of decline, Presley also celebrated a year of measurable growth within the SBC. Did you know that our baptisms are up this year, my brothers and sisters? He asked. It's all right to be happy about baptisms being up. I mean, it's the very name of who we are. So, the SBC, that's one of their major metrics. So, are they succeeding? And the way they know they're succeeding is if they're baptizing people. Now, that can mean people are being saved or people are joining the church. All right, there you go. That's your metric. I would say for churches, a much better metric is knowledge about God's revelation, knowledge about God's word. I think that's a much better metric. And, I mean, how do you measure that? That's the problem. The statistics that the Baptist churches are worried about, like the SBC is worried about baptisms, people who have joined the church, how much has been given to missions. Those are like the major things that the SBC puts emphasis on, puts focus on. And the convenient thing for all those is they are measurable, right? You can count heads, you can count dollars, you can do all those things. The things that I think we should be concerned about, things that I'm concerned about, other churches are concerned about, it's not how many heads are being dunked underwater or how many people have joined a church or how much money has been given to a certain thing. Now, can those things be good? Sure. Right? And I'm extending it all the way out to baptism, being very generous here, right? Okay, fine, whatever. As somebody who believes that baptism has no effect on our salvation, Paul was not sent to baptize, who is our apostle. I'm not worried about that part, but you know what? People join the church, giving, whatever, okay? Great. But much more important is people's knowledge gained about the Bible. Growing in knowledge, developing their doctrine, being confident in their doctrine, those are all much better, much more superior things. How do you measure that? I mean, unless you do like a standardized test, I don't know, maybe we could come up with an acronym like the BKT, the Bible Knowledge Test. You got to have a fancy acronym to go with these things. I mean, how do you measure that? It's very difficult. You have to just engage with them. You have to talk to your congregation, or, I mean, if I'm wanting to extend this beyond my church, but also look online. Thank you, Rick. He looked it up. Mores, a complicated or ambiguous situation. I mean, I've heard of mores, I think, but did I even pronounce it correctly? Who knows? Regardless, I would have to look at just and see where you're at, the kind of questions you're asking, the kind of studies that you're doing. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to grow biblical knowledge, and it's not easy to measure people's extent of biblical knowledge. It's not an easy thing to do. What is easy is counting heads and counting dollars. So that's what the SBC is worried about. I would say they would do better to stop counting the numbers, and yet everybody has the board right in their church. How many people came last week versus how many people today? How many in Sunday school? How much was given in Sunday school? How much was given today? I digress. Moving on a little bit more here to look at the rest of the whole picture. And then I'll give you my entire thoughts on the SBC for the year of 2025, of what we're going to expect, and also half of 2026. He also highlighted an increased church attendance, church plants, and missionary candidates, declaring we have a surprising number of things to celebrate this year. So church attendance is up a little bit. That's what he's saying. Sure. Maybe so. Why is that? I don't know. It could be any number of reasons that church attendance is back up. I really don't know. How much is it up? I haven't seen the numbers that he's referring to right here. We do know that church decline is somewhat tapering. Presley called the cooperative program the genius of how we actually do missions together and challenged churches to remain faithful in giving. So giving to the cooperative program, that's the big thing. That's what makes the SBC really what it is. All these churches giving to the same cooperative program for missions, for hopefully ministry, and not other things, even though there's a lot of money that's out there. That's a lot of money. And the SBC, there's some big churches, some big players that are in the SBC, but I mean, there's a whole lot more small churches than there are big churches that are involved. And so the small churches, even though they're not giving as much, you've got 20 small churches to every medium-sized church, and then you got, 100 small churches to every big church. The small churches come together to float a lot of the bills, a lot of the expenses. So, in short, I don't know, he said a lot of things there, just supporting the cooperative program, keeping people on board. So what can we expect from the SBC moving forward? More of the same. I don't see anything that's major to change. I think it's possible that something big could happen. So here's the thing. The SBC could continue on as a united convention for the next 50, 7,500 years. It really could. I would also not be surprised if at some point there is a major division. But for right now, I don't see it happening. And the reason why, I think the main reason why you're not going to see a massive divide within the SBC is most of the debate in the SBC is going to primarily surround politics, and politics changes a lot. So with Trump in office right now, at least for this first year, everybody's kind of calmed down. Like, okay, yeah, the country's taken a little bit more of a conservative shift. We're getting away from the hot topics of the day. So, a few years ago, 2020, whatever, you had a lot more SBC churches leaning into, racial politics, okay, critical race theory to a degree. And now that's calmed down, so it's not going to be a major issue. Right now, it seems like churches are somewhat calmed down on the matter of female pastors. You're not seeing near as much pushback from one side or the other. Sounds like the SBC's on cruise control. That's what it sounds like to me. They're going to focus on continuing to build the cooperative program, giving to North American Mission Board, the IMB, and the world's going to keep spinning. The truth is, the only thing I really believe that would cause a major split within the SBC is a doctrinal debate. If there were enough churches that felt strongly enough about doctrine, then you could potentially see a scenario where the SBC does start to have a major rift, a major divide. But the problem is, it's just not there yet, because as long as churches think that it's okay for the association to have their meeting, and you got a Calvinist, a three-point Calvinist, a weak dispensationalist, and a squishy center, middle-of-the-road evangelical, all working together, and nobody sees a problem with it, nobody's upset about it, then the cooperative program is going to continue. At some point, though, maybe there could be a doctrinal divide, but it's going to require for there to be some major drifting. Like, some people are going to have to get really liberal in their theology, and some people are going to have to get really conservative in their theology. And unfortunately, the SBC is... it's not quite conservative enough to take enough issue with the more liberal side, if that makes sense. It's kind of like the weakly conservative Republicans that just kind of go along to get along with other people, all right? They don't have a strong conviction, if you will. Maybe one of these days, somebody's going to finally have enough conviction about the matter. But what happens is when they do, they just leave the SBC. There's never a movement. SBC churches just go independent. That's typically what you're going to see. It's not there's probably not going to be a major conservative movement within the SBC. And what would that even look like? I mean, is it going to be will the Calvinists eventually just get to where they don't tolerate non-Calvinist churches? I don't know. I mean, the SBC is Calvinist now. I mean, that is what they are. They've kind of gone back to their roots. The soft form of dispensationalism of the 60s, 70s, 80s, Adrian Rogers and such, it did not last. It's not holding power now in the SBC. It's just not. So it really, if there's going to be a split, maybe it's because the Calvinists push it. Maybe they will. And are there going to be enough people who have a backbone? I feel like a lot of preachers are intimidated by the Calvinists. Like the Calvinists are kind of seen as the intellectual heavyweights within the SBC. So maybe it's the case that these SBC preachers are not even going to have the confidence to even stand up to the Calvinists. So if the Calvinists push, then they're just going to go along with it. But maybe there's some out there. If you get enough people in the SBC who actually believe in the SBC, the problem is when most people wake up to really serious matters of doctrine, when they realize, they really lose much taste for even trying to be a part of the SBC, because they realize, why are we giving money to ministries that really do share a fundamentally different view than we have? And so it's going to be more of the same. All right, how about that? That is the story of the SBC for 2025, 2026. Next year, when we're talking about the annual meeting, it'll just be more of the same. All right, now let's get to the story that I want to tell you about and the lesson that it has for us. All right. There is a small, and I say small, I mean they have nearly 100 employees. There is a small company involved in the firearms industry called T-Rex Arms. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. I will show you their website. But they are called T-Rex Arms. This is their website. They primarily do a lot with like holsters. That's how they got started, but they also do a lot of other stuff. And hey, we're Americans. We believe in the Second Amendment, being self-reliant, all of those things. And they have, for a long time, had this strong conviction about making the American public, the American citizen, equipped and prepared for anything, to be self-reliant. And they also focus on other stuff. They'll even they've talked about matters of whether it's communication, not relying on cell phone towers and infrastructure, but being a community and having your own means. Like if things go bad, do you have the resources to help your community in a fire, help your community in a storm, a natural disaster, whatever? It really is just simply about being self-reliant. And they are openly a Christian company. They were founded by a man named Lucas Botkin. You can look up and read all this. He started making holsters, kind of took off, and it evolved into making other kinds of products and equipment, and now they sell other companies' stuff, all these things. And they really stood out as an American company making American products and promoting Christian values. Now, are they right dividers? No. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of form of Calvinist to a degree. But they are still they were largely family owned, family operated, because Lucas brought in his brothers to help him. And they were really a source of encouragement to me. I really found them to be a breath of fresh air in a world in which a lot of people are not Christians in their values. They were very upfront about it. And unfortunately, kind of in a strange wave of events, the founder of the company, Lucas Botkin, the younger brother, leaves his company. And he says he does so on the basis of values, principles, and protecting his family. Now, this led to a ton of questions. Wait, he just left? It came out of the blue. Wasn't expected. And Lucas is a major figure. I mean, he has, if you combine all of his different social media, he's got millions of followers. He's really a big deal. He's been interviewed by Tucker Carlson. He's a well-known person. And everybody was wondering, why would he leave? What happened? And it has led to a lot of questions. Well, basically, T-Rex Arms gave a very vague public statement that for a while now there's been a divergence in values. We don't really know what that means. And there was a tipping point when a T-Rex employee sent inappropriate pictures to someone close to Lucas. And unfortunately, the company says they didn't handle it as they should have. And that was so vague that nobody knew what happened. Well, more of the information, more of the stories come out. And basically, here is where things stand. For a while, there has been some frustration between Lucas and his brothers and another owner. And while Lucas owned a larger portion than others, this is from my understanding based on the information given, collectively the brothers owned the majority share, right? So Lucas may have owned 40, but, the other three owners owned 60% total, so they get outvoted. I mean, I'm not saying those are the exact percentages, I'm just saying that was the situation. So if the three other owners basically sided against Lucas, well, then Lucas did not have a say. And that led to frustration and difficulties between them. And during the course of Lucas's time there, he, being the majority owner, the owner with the largest share, we'll put it that way, he did some things, some violations of the employee handbook that was justifiable for leave without pay and even being fired. We don't know the details there. The family is trying to, the brothers have not spoken out much about it at all. Lucas has. But the brothers are not speaking ill of Lucas at all, where Lucas has been more open speaking ill of his brothers. He feels like he's been betrayed in the whole deal. Now, another event took place in which an employee sent, like I said, these inappropriate images to someone close to Lucas. It turned out to be his wife. Now, the images were pornographic, animated type images, and I don't even want to go into the details, but it wasn't actual people, but it was something inappropriate. Now, the employee claimed it was all by accident. How does that accidentally happen? I don't know, but that's the story. Now, if you think I'm getting way too in the details here, I just want to give you the whole picture before I go into the rest of all this, okay? Lucas demands that employee be terminated. Well, there's an investigation done to figure out, did the employee really do it on purpose? And if so, it would be justifiable for harassment. However, they really could not prove this was done intentionally. The employee had no previous offenses, and the employee honestly didn't seem to even know about it, that he did it on accident until he was told. Long story short, the T-Rex company, the executives, those making the decisions, did not find that the action was clearly and justifiably harassment and done intentionally. Now, the owner, Lucas, had committed a number of violations previously. We don't know what those are. The company hasn't released them. All we know that there has been some instances. Now, what does the company do? Do they immediately terminate this individual for his one-time offense, which really didn't even happen on company time or with a company employee, and not provable to be malicious? Or do they extend grace? Now, you can decide what you would do in that situation, but I'm just saying the precedent had already been set in which Lucas had received a lot of grace. One of the owners received a lot of grace, whereas an employee committed his first time offense, if you want to use that word. Well, long story short, the company didn't feel justified in immediately terminating this person when Lucas had received quite a bit of forgiveness and grace in the past. That seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Lucas, who had already been frustrated because he didn't get to run the company entirely the way he wanted, left the company, and so many people have decided to side with Lucas, saying that Lucas is defending his wife's honor and that T-Rex has betrayed its Christian values and all of these things. I'm not saying that either side is completely in the right or completely in the wrong. I'm thinking that there are probably mistakes made on both sides. But here's what I'm going to tell you right now. I told you the whole story just to get to this point right here. It kind of really bothered me, and it still does, because I like to shoot. I like to shoot competitively. I like to just train. I think it's fun, and I also think it's a good thing as a man. I've got to be a protector for my family. And I've always looked at T-Rex Arms as a company that I could go to that shared my baseline values, and they're an American company. I felt good about giving them my business. They employ Americans, and they still have, nearly 100 American employees. Very good thing. And now their reputation is severely damaged. And whether justified or unjustified, and I'm leaning towards not really all that justified, that people are turning against them, saying that the company's going to go under. And now, because Lucas has come out and said the company's done all these things and accused them of these things, there's nearly 100 people who may lose their job. And now what are they going to do? They're going to have to go find other work elsewhere. It's just a very sad situation, and I've let myself over the years get fond of everybody there, whether it was Lucas or his brother Isaac or Brandon, who works for them. And it really left me feeling extremely discouraged, because that was like one American company that I felt really good about and had a lot of hopes for. And maybe they still have a bright future. But then I had to remind myself, when I was so down and discouraged about the whole thing, I had to remind myself of this. The values that you have, the convictions that you have, the work that you do, it has to be bigger than one man or one ministry. I think it's a very good thing that even though we are very small in number, as right dividers, those who hold to a dispensational view, it is a good thing that we have multiple ministries out there. And what the ministries prove is that you exist. It's not so much about the ministry itself. Just like T-Rex Arms is not so much about the company itself, but it's about the people that they serve and the people that have bought from them to make them the company that they are. You who are watching this show, those of you who believe in taking the Bible for what it says, not buying into the evangelical brochures, but willing to disagree and challenge the assumptions made by so many, and appeal to just what the Bible says rather than what man says. You are the foundation here, okay? The work that we do is made possible by all of you. In the fact that you listen and you share with people and you give us the opportunity to teach. You will listen. When I do a Bible study on Abraham tonight at 6:30, you will tune in, whether live or maybe you'll catch it later. If this ministry goes under, whether it's I can't afford it or, I completely blow it in my integrity, in my character, in my behavior, and this ministry goes away, there's still you, and there's still other ministries out there. And that's what I have to do. I'm going to continue to monitor the situation I think that T-Rex Arms is still worthy of my business, despite some of the claims made against them, and even maybe some of the mistakes they might have made. I still think that they're worthy of my business. I'm willing to grant some grace to them. But if T-Rex Arms goes under and the company's gone, there are still people who believe in being prepared, being self-reliant, believing in the responsibility for fathers to be dangerous, to be protectors, to preserve life, to preserve freedom, to stand for Christian values. So if this ministry's gone or another ministry's gone, whether it's just due to bad, unfortunate events, or maybe the minister behind it fails and he falls apart and he does not run his race well, you don't need to be discouraged, because this whole thing cannot ride on the shoulders of one person. It can't all ride on the shoulders of your favorite theologian, whether it's me or somebody else. You need to continue on and continue in the motivation. There's a number of you that I think are very capable. I see that Robert's with us. Robert does Bible studies on YouTube. He's doing his part to ensure that there's more right divided pastors, right divided teachers. So what I want you to know right now in short is, when there is a disturbing, shocking thing that happens, and it will happen eventually, hopefully not with mine, but I don't know, maybe something happens in the future to where somebody you really believed in doesn't pan out, doesn't work out, something shocking occurs. Don't let it rock you to your core. Don't let it cause you to lose confidence, to despair. Because as long as this whole thing is bigger than any one person or ministry, you're going to continue on. There will be other ministries to support. One of you will rise up to the challenge. One of you will meet the requirements, and in whatever fashion that may be. But just keep your eye on the prize. And when things happen that cause you to want to dismay, just remember that there's more of you out there that believe in these values, and you've got to stand on it. Don't give up. Don't lose heart. That's my thoughts on that whole situation. I'll read a couple of comments. Paul says, "How dare you?" That probably has to do with me not doing my show yesterday. Sydney's on with us today. Got Robert from North Mississippi. Toby's on with us. Toby says, "I'm not allowed to comment much about my firearms." LOL. Shame you lost them all in a boating accident. Rick is with us on. Mary Terry, always enjoy you. Ken's on with us. Michaela says, "I've really been enjoying the End Time series, and I look forward to beginning your Abraham series." Good. I'm glad that you like it, Michaela. I hope that you found it good. I've been working on the End Time series for a long time. We did a lot of work before we ever even touched Revelation. So I think is how you've got to do it. Robert says, "Why not let the product stand on its own merits? Should we boycott Car Arms because the founder is the son of Reverend Sun Young Moon?" I wouldn't. No, and I'm not saying that you have to buy from a company just because you agree with their values. And you'd also, it's not that you are forbidden from buying from a company who disagrees with your values. I'm just saying, when you find one that does both, it's an encouraging thing, because not only did they make good products that I would have bought regardless, they also were a Christian company. And so it was just encouraging to see a company do both things well. And it gave you it was exciting there. You know, it was something encouraging. It inspired you and made you have a little bit of hope. But no, I mean, there's a bunch of companies like that are out there that make really good stuff. I mean, I'm using a Canon camera, and I don't really know if Canon has any of my values, but they make a good camera. So that's a good point. Well, everyone, I'm going to let you go today. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday until tonight at 6:30 when we go live for Studying Abraham, Finding the Biblical Truth. Everyone, this has been Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And, this simply represents the values that you are defending, that you are standing for. I'm just trying to, hopefully, be somebody who promotes the values that you represent, that you believe in, that you are fighting for. So thank you all so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a good rest of your day.